Hello, and welcome to Tea Time and a Story. To start off this video, I am currently looking at the Booktube newbie tag, which is because I was inspired by the Booktube part of YouTube to start this channel. But I do not want this channel to be exclusively about books. I will get to that in a second. So, number one, why did I start this channel? I started this channel because I am passionate about fiction, or more specifically, a good story. Because not all good stories are fiction. I am aware of that. Fictional stories just tend to be better most of the time. I wanted to talk about it. I am a literature major, and yeah, I get to study stories, which is pretty great. But a lot of the times, the discussions we have in my literature classes are not the type of discussions I want to be having about what we are reading. Because if you're an English major and you've taken any sort of literature courses, you know that 99% of classes are going to end up somehow becoming like a 50-minute conversation about dick innuendos. And look, I did not pay all this money for tuition and textbooks so we could talk about some fictional guy's dick. That's not why I went to college. No, I went to college for a piece of paper that says I'm certified to get a full-time job. That's not even guaranteed. But that's besides the point. I wanted to talk with other people about these stories I am passionate about. I am very sorry. That's a better position to sit in. So, second, what are some of the fun and unique things you can bring to Booktube? Well, I don't plan on exclusively being Booktube. I want to talk about other storytelling media. For instance, I want to talk about mostly video games, because I think that video games are the second best storytelling medium out there. Simply because of the level of immersion they provide to the audience. You become a part of the story. You directly influence what happens a lot of times, especially in games these days. You control where the story goes, and I find that amazing, and every story becomes super personal to the player. So I think that video games, I guess, have their own spot in Booktube, or just in the story fandom, if that's a thing. If not, I just invented it. Welcome to the story fandom. I also like, TV and movies. I will admit I don't watch them as avidly as most people, but I do watch them. So if I come across one that I want to talk about, it's going to end up on this channel. What are you most excited for about this new channel? I am just excited to try something new. I am in my last semester of college. I don't know where my life is going. I don't know what I'm doing, but hey, let's go on the internet and talk about stories with people you've never met, because why not? Why do you love reading? I've always loved reading. When I was growing up, I grew up in a part of Massachusetts that was like super focused on making sure children were like super literate. So I honestly don't remember a time in my life when I wasn't reading. I imagine that some of my peers probably hated having stories and books shoved down their throat, but I opened wide and said, bring it on. Like, give me more of this Dr. Seuss guy. He's great. So, I've been reading my whole life. I like to escape. The world sucks. I mean, let's be honest. The world just sucks. But, I can pick up a book. I can pick up a video game controller, and for a few hours, I'm not here. I'm somewhere else. I'm doing something really awesome. it's great. That's why I love reading. That's why I love stories, is because I get to get away. What book or series got you into reading? Because I also want to talk about other things on this channel, so I'm going to split this question up into a few separate parts. So, like I said, I've been reading my whole life, but I went through this weird slump from like the ages of like 10 to 13, maybe even 12, I don't know, like my pre-teens, early teens, where I was too old for a lot of the books in the children's section, but I kind of wasn't old enough for, adult books, and I didn't know YA was a thing. And I remember I had to read The Hunger Games for my English class in the 8th grade, and this was way before the hype started. The second book hadn't even come out yet when we started reading The Hunger Games in my class, but I loved that book. I was obsessed with that book. I was like, I didn't know stories this great existed until The Hunger Games. And after that, I went to the library and I just devoured all the science fiction I could find. And from there, that led to me discovering video games. I had been playing video games for a lot during my childhood, but I got scared very easily. So a lot of my video games were like limited to like Pac-Man and like Powerpuff Girls, because I would cry if the villains were too scary. We had a racing game with lava in it, and it made me cry, so I couldn't play that anymore. So I didn't start playing like video games for quite a while. I played Kingdom Hearts a lot in middle school and high school. And I got pretty obsessed with that, but I didn't become an avid like gaming enthusiast until I think I was a senior in high school. I picked up Skyrim because I had nothing better to do, and the guy I was dating at the time was willing to let me use a Steam account, so I started playing Skyrim, and I was like, hey, I have direct control over this person, and I had control where the story is going. I'm screaming at dragons, and it's great. I had a great time, and from there I just started playing more and more and more games. Sorry, I'm running out of breath. It is time for a sip of tea. I am currently getting over a cold, so I apologize for my voice. But anyway, so I guess Skyrim really got me into video gaming, even though before then I did play video games. I just wasn't as into them. Now a lot of my paycheck goes into video games, unfortunately. So the last question on here that I think is relevant for what I want to talk about on this channel is, what kind of books do you like to read? As I mentioned, I read a lot. Maybe I didn't mention it, but I read a lot of YA fiction, and I understand that a lot of the people on YouTube who get up and talk about stories, mostly books, are white girls who read almost exclusively YA fiction. And if you're sick of having that pushed down your throat, I'm sorry. That's what I like to read. I can relate more to the protagonists in YA fiction than I can in most adult fiction, because in a lot of adult fiction, the protagonists are really sexist men going through like 9 divorces who hate their wife, and they drink, and there's a lot of boobs. I hate it. That isn't to say there isn't, or that there isn't adult fiction out there that isn't like that. I have read it. It's hard for me to find, and for me to find and like. So, I read a lot of YA fiction. I'll get back to video games. Genre-wise, I tend to read much more fantasy and science fiction because, like I said, I read to escape. I don't really like reading about the contemporary world because that's not why I pick up a book. That isn't to say I don't read those types of books. I just have to find a story and characters that I care about in those settings. Video games, I am not picky. I'm not as picky with my video games as I am with my books. I'll play just about anything, and I think that's because the story is far more immersive. Like I said, you have direct control over the characters and what they do, and because of that, I find that the stories can be more engaging. So I'm less picky with the genre of games I play. As for stuff I watch, it's also a lot of science fiction and fantasy. I will admit, I do tend to watch a bit more cartoons than I do live action. And that's simply because I find that the stories in cartoons just are far more entertaining for me. And Netflix thinks I'm 8, with a dash of like a 40-year-old, but hey, that's how the dice roll. And it was a nat 1. So anyway, this was an introductory video. Was it a good one? No. I've never recorded a video for YouTube before. I'm a nervous wreck. I have problems looking directly at the camera, but I also just have problems looking directly at anything when I'm talking passionately about something. I am losing my breath because I'm not used to talking this much. The background isn't exactly the best, but it was the best spot in my room that I could find that wasn't too cluttered. Things are subject to change, and that's okay. But like I said, this was an introductory video, and I'm very excited to see where this channel goes. If it takes off, it doesn't take off. Or if it takes off, that's fine. If it doesn't take off, that's also fine. But I'm excited to see where this goes. So join me on this journey through the internet. Grab your favorite comforting beverage, and let's go. Doo-doo-doo.